So if you're looking to get yourself an action camera, there's a lot of deals going on and a lot of different brands. And I'm going to tell you the one camera that I've been using for all my videos recently, which is the Insta360 OneR. This thing is amazing. I love it, and if you've ever been following my channel at all and watching any of my videos, I've been doing a lot of 360 footage, but I also do mix it up with the 4K mod that it actually also you can get with it. And I think with these two things combined, like, it's just such a powerhouse of a camera. So let's just compare it with the GoPros that you probably looked at. I've had GoPros before for a while, and I loved them. I think they're great. It wasn't until that I saw some footage of the 360 and it took away the stick, and that just blew my mind. That just changed like the whole game of it. So honestly, for me, it looks so much better. It's surprising how much that little detail of seeing the stick or not really changes everything. So I love 360, I think it's great. So maybe you're gonna use it on vacations. I don't know if you've been riding OneWheels like me, maybe you ride some sort of other PEV. Either way, whatever you're riding or wherever you're trying to take this, I think it's just an amazing camera. 360 footage is just wonderful. Normally before, when you had a GoPro, you kind of had to like focus on your shots and just like, you really couldn't do anything about it later in post when you're looking at it and you're like, man, I wish I really shot it from somewhere else. The good thing about 360 is that you don't really have to focus too much on what you're shooting. I don't want to say that you can completely just like disregard it and like, you know, figure it out later, because you still have to be very conscious about the different shots that you're doing. So usually when I'm riding my OneWheel, I know that the shots from front, below, and back right or back middle a little bit look a little bit better than when you hold it too high above and downwards angle. So I am trying to be a bit more conscious about the shots that I am taking. I mean, obviously it's not as much thought that you have to put into the GoPro where you really decide, so that's nice. So sometimes, let's say if I have the camera behind me and I'm filming, I can either, you know, change the angle in post and decide if I want it to be looking at me or looking at behind me at whatever else is going on. Sometimes crazy things happen and you might not have it in the right angle. Cool thing about 360 is that you might actually still get it in post because you can spin it around and see, you know, whatever's happening. It's good and it's bad for some folks that don't want to go through the hassle of perhaps like the post editing part and like literally adding in each marker and deciding, you know, each keyframe. And it's long, it's tedious, I get it. For someone like me, I want that option. I want to choose what, you know, you guys are looking at, what the audience sees. I want to be able to control that. So maybe if you don't like adding keyframes, there are options in the app, which is great, and even in the actual studio app now on your computer, where you can kind of designate what you want the camera to follow. I think that's really cool. It's a really convenient function. The only downside that I don't like about it is that when I'm riding my OneWheel, for example, and I'm trying to choose what angle I want, and if I do the automatic one, it really doesn't get the right perspective that I want it to be aiming at, because it really keeps it like dead center. And for a lot of the shots, I'm not really aiming to get that dead center look. Like, I kind of adjust it so that you get a little bit of a different perspective. The other thing that I also do like about the 360 versus the GoPro is that for many of you, and which is what I'm thinking that Insta360 is thinking, they just released a new camera called the One X2. Now, I had the previous model, the One X, and that's how I initially got started into the whole 360 world. And I love the camera. It was amazing. I used it on a bunch of different rides and I thought it was wonderful. I eventually did find out about the OneR when it came out later, and I gotta say, like, the flexibility of having these mods where you can kind of like replace it out, I mean, it's just a genius thing. I mean, you're not buying like a whole new device when you can just, there's the battery, you can take apart the mod. So if they ever do start continuing to, you know, upgrade these like cameras, I mean, you don't have to you know, get new pieces to it in theory. Like, they just got to update these camera pieces. The battery stays the same, and that's what's so cool about it. Like, I love that. There's the 360, here's the 4K mod, and with that flexibility of having both of these on one camera, I mean, I don't see how you can beat that with a GoPro, because, you know, on a GoPro, you'd have, even on their 360 ones, you'd still have to get a GoPro, you'd have two different cameras, but like these two little cubes, like, that's just so convenient to have. Like, I just don't know why you'd want to go the other way. Like the footage to me, like I get it, like they're all gonna look great, honestly. I've taken footage on the 4K mod and I think it looks phenomenal. The stabilization is great. Like I'm riding a OneWheel and it keeps it really smooth, super steady. And you know, even with the 360, like the footage is just phenomenal all around. The only gripe that I do have, and I don't really think there's much competition about this right now, is with 360 mods, these things just aren't the best at night shots. That's what like kind of kills me a little bit, because I personally do a lot of riding at night, and like a lot of the events I go to are at night, and it's just not the best quality. If you have like a ton of lighting and street lights, it might turn out okay, but like if you really try to push it into darker areas, it just gets really grainy and it's not really usable, and nobody really wants to look at that stuff when you can barely see what's going on with all the pixels. So that's the only downside. And even with the 4K, like it's still decent at night, but it's just nowhere near like a DSLR capability, which, you know, I mean, it's not bad. I mean, look, this little cube versus like the sensor on like a huge DSLR, like, yeah, like it's gonna be so much easier for me to ride and have this little, you know, setup versus like, you know, trying to hold on to a DSLR with a gimbal. Like that's just not practical. Like you're not gonna go riding, or, you know, unless you're like a serious filmmaker and you have like a project planned out, yeah, you might ride around with your gimbal and your DSLR and like this crazy $1,000, $2,000 setup. But like for most people, like if you're going on just a regular ride, like you're just not gonna want to carry all that. That's just not feasible. I mean, and the best part is like you look at this stick and like this whole setup together is all you need. Like there's no crazy, like I have a DSLR gimbal that I do use when I was doing like events and whatnot and weddings, and those things are great, but like you're just not gonna carry that around to ride. Like that's just not practical for most people. So I just really, it's hard for me to justify why you'd want to go any other way versus, you know, like I'm not trying to put down GoPro. I've loved what they've done in the past. I've had 2 different generations of GoPros that I use on tons of vacations and trips, and they were really awesome. But what I think is lacking is kind of the innovation that Insta360 took on. It's this ability to do 360 and 4K and get these linear shots. Like I love 360, but you can't do that all the time. If it kind of gets a little bit old, like if you were to watch all the videos and it just stayed 360, it gets pretty boring, and it's also not like the most exciting footage in some ways. Like it's not very cinematic, maybe to say. And that's why I like the flexibility of having the 4K mod, because you get a different perspective that isn't just like too warpy all the time. You get a different view. And I think for most folks, like you don't need 360 all the time. If you're just like trying to take other shots, like there's just so much versatility to using a 360 1R that I really don't know why you'd want to get the GoPro versions. I'm assuming, let's say if you do have a GoPro, I would just honestly sell it, which I've done already. I sold my old GoPro stuff. Just throw it on eBay, Craigslist, like, you know, those are still gonna be worth a lot. A lot of people still love using GoPros. But if you're just getting into this whole action sports camera and you wanna go on vacations or film yourself doing sports, whatever, it really doesn't get better than the 1R. And I love that they've upgraded the 1X2, and the only thing is, you know, for that price point, I think it's at like $430 right now. You could get the same 1R 360 mod, I believe right now, for $430 as well. So if the price point is the same and the quality, I think the bit rate, which means the coloring is a little bit better on the 1X2 when you're in post and you want to color it, it captures a little bit better color. I mean, it's very minimal. But if the price point is the same, I would say just get the 360 1R, and then down the road, if you feel actually like getting the 4K mod or even the 1-inch, you know, Leica that is available too, which I did not purchase, but I'll probably do a review later. Maybe I'll borrow one of my friends who actually has one and do a review there. But like what I'm saying is, you know, start off with the 1R and build from there. You know, I just don't think you should get the X2 and then find yourself eventually selling it because you want that variety. You know, it just sets you up better, in my opinion, for that option, and the footage is gonna be the same. The quality is just as good, in my opinion. You're not gonna really be able to tell the difference between the 1R 360 and the X2. You know, it's really up to you. I just know that there's a lot of deals coming out, and with Thanksgiving and Black Friday and this new One X2 camera, there's gonna be a lot of people interested, and I'm just trying to hopefully help some of you make a better decision. And I don't think there's anything wrong with X2. Maybe, let's say you already have a GoPro and you know you have that footage that you can use from there to get linear shots that are 4K, whatever. That's great. And then you just wanna get a 360 and just test her out. That's fine too. I just think that, in my opinion, just like, I'm all about the minimalist kit that I can have, and I don't want to be switching from a GoPro to my 360 camera and just like doing this switcheroo thing. I mean, it's probably not that big of a deal for most of you, but I just think for if you're starting off or if you're trying to transition, this is a great product to move on to and then expand from there. And for the serious filmmakers, like, it's just a great opportunity to get footage that you normally couldn't. And for me, I've always been trying to capture more quality footage with my rides, and with the ability to do the 4K, I just think it really opens up a lot more of a perspective, because I didn't want to carry around that huge gimbal and DSLR. I mean, it's just not practical for me. I know for a lot of folks that have done it, that's great. The footage looks amazing. So it's just personal preference, but I think for the average consumer, 360 camera is going to be more than enough to get really good footage and provide super amazing quality and just a different perspective than the typical GoPro footage. Maybe I'll do a video on the accessories if you are interested more, and I will dive into that. Either way, by the time I post this video, Halloween would have been yesterday, so hopefully you guys had a good Halloween. I would have been out on a ride and done some vlogging, because I'm gonna do another review tomorrow, or yesterday for you guys, on the new Sony ZV-1 camera, which I recently just purchased and I'm actually filming on now. I think it's just really cool. This is an awesome camera setup, but we'll dive into that and I'll post that for next week. Either way, I just wanted to cover this camera because I know a lot of folks have been asking what I use, and I'm just a big fan of it. It's just a really good product all around. I haven't had any gripes, obviously, besides the low light that I mentioned before. But if you have any questions about it, hit me up in the comments below. Maybe you already own one, or maybe you like your GoPro footage, or I don't know. I guess I'm just curious what you guys are using out there. I think it's cool. I love seeing what everyone's sharing. It's just nice to see the different creative ways that you guys are using these tools. So I just want to see what everyone's using out there, just sharing what I use. Hopefully it helps you guys in your decision. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've talked for a while. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. Thank you for watching all the way to the end of this video. If you're still here, that really means a lot. I really appreciate you. So if you get a chance and you really like this video and it helped you in any way, hit that like. And if you want to stick around for more videos like this and, you know, watch me OneWheel or talk about other products that I'm using, camera related, hit that subscribe. I'm trying to think of like different ways to like make up videos each week, because I really don't want to just like stay on the OneWheel stuff, because I feel like that kind of gets old for some of you folks who are subscribed to my channel. And, you know, maybe for new people that are looking at OneWheels, it's great, but for existing riders, like, you kind of know like everything that's going on, so you probably really don't need to hear too much more talk about the OneWheel, because I'm sure you already know how awesome it is. So it is what it is, and trying to keep it fresh for you guys. I'll just keep mixing it up, I don't know, trying different stuff, and hopefully you liked it. And I will catch you guys next week. Peace!